welcome to the messed that up, didn't I? The Daily Geeky Pastimes podcast, episode number 29. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Summer Game Fest. Jeff Keighley's announced a lot of the partners that are going to be working on the show. This is basically E3 now. Like, this is the thing that's replacing E3. So we're going to be talking about that. Apologies if on the stream things are a little bit funky. For some reason, my internet connection's been going up and down for the last 24 hours. Not really sure what's happening there. But if there are any problems with the VOD or if it's buffering or something like that, then you can listen to this on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google Play, places like that. Just search for the Daily Geeky Pastimes podcast and you will be able to find it. So we're going to start off with the gaming news today, and there's only a few things today, really. I feel like all of the news sites are just covering Zelda because the Zelda launch is today. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is out. We're waiting for our copies to turn up in the post. It's made me very nervous to go on like Twitter or on any of the gaming news sites I normally go on, because all of their pages are just sort of like, hey, look at this cool thing you can do in Zelda. And it's like, I don't really want to know. I want to experience that for myself, so I don't want to see all of that stuff. So I've tried my best to stay away. I haven't even watched like the last few trailers or anything like that. I just kind of want to go in as fresh as I can. So that's probably what I'll mostly be doing today. Depending on how my internet connection holds up, there's a chance I might play a little bit of DMZ or Warzone or something like that. I did play some Warzone 2 ranked last night with, I played a little bit with Johnny and Phil, two of my friends, and then I played a bit with Flynn and Jack Frag, two of my sort of like online friends, and had a good time with it. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. Like, I got all the way up to the lofty heights of Bronze 2. But yeah, like, I know I'm not amazing at it, but Warzone ranked does give you some reason to come back. I think it does give you some reason to keep on playing, to be like, oh, I'll just do one more, like, oh look, I'm nearly at the next rank or I'm nearly at the next league, so I'm going to give it a little bit more of a go. I'm sure that might change for me once I get into the leagues where you start losing SR if you do badly, but for now I'm having a good time. For now I'm enjoying it. So like I said, there's a chance I might do some streaming. It kind of depends when Zelda comes. It's meant to come between 9:30 and 1:30, and it's like, if it comes at 9:30, as soon as this podcast finishes, that's what I'm doing. And then if it doesn't come by the time I finish this, then maybe I'll be waiting a while. I also need to update my Switch, I think, because I haven't loaded up my Switch in like months at this point. I've got no idea what sort of state it's in. So we'll see how that's going. Also just realized I don't have a Switch controller. I did get a little thing for it. I got a thing for the Switch that lets me use like Xbox controllers and stuff like that. So I might try using that and see if I can just use an Xbox controller with it. We'll see how it goes anyway. Maybe it'll all work out absolutely fine. So yeah, in terms of the actual news, that was just what I'm doing really. That's nothing to do with the news. Layers of Fear is getting a demo next week. This is like a reboot for the Layers of Fear series. I know there was at least 2 games in the Layers of Fear series. I'm not sure if there were more than that. But I always quite liked them, especially the first one, because the first Layers of Fear, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a horror game made by, I think it's like Bloober Team, isn't it? It's the people who are doing the Silent Hill 2 remake. And the first one, Layers of Fear, you're sort of wandering around the house listening to a story, a bit like, games like Dear Esther and Gone Home and stuff like that. But there's like horror stuff happening. And one of the things I really like about that way of doing it is that like there's no combat, there's no running away from things or anything like that. It's much more like you are just experiencing it. It's like watching a scary movie, but you're the one doing a bit of exploring, a bit of like, puzzle solving and stuff like that. Because, like, the thing I really don't like in horror games more than anything is the sort of weird forced stealth. I hate those bits in horror games where there's some big monster and you have to go and, like, hide in a cupboard and wait for it to pass. Or you have to, like, try and sneak around something. Like, I just think, in my mind at least, it never really works. Like, the gameplay is never that good. I think stealth in games, for me, works well when you've got loads of abilities and loads of powers to help you achieve it. So like, Hitman is pretty good at it. Like, still not my favorite thing about Hitman, but it's pretty cool. Splinter Cell's really good, where you can use a lot of like climbing and sneaking around that way. Assassin's Creed, the first Assassin's Creed did some cool stuff with that. Splinter Cell really is like the peak for me of like, you're using your athleticism and then carefully taking out targets in order to stealth. I like that sort of stuff. I don't like it like, say, in Alien Isolation, which is probably one of the better examples of the sort of survival horror type thing. I don't really like the whole, okay, I'm going to hide under this table and hope that AI doesn't notice me. And because you always kind of, I've talked about this a few times on podcast, you're always engaging with it as a game. And I know that always sounds a bit stupid when I say it, but what I mean is like it breaks the immersion because you're kind of being like, okay, how does this AI work? Like, is it going to notice this? Is it going to notice me if I crouch behind a counter? Is it going to notice me if I hide underneath this table? Is it going to notice me if I just walk behind it? And you're sort of learning the rules of the game rather than thinking about it as a real thing. And you know, in Alien Isolation, I think like the first time you encounter the alien, you definitely need to do it as like it's a real thing, it's an alien. You sort of try to treat it a bit realistically. But then the first time you die, and you definitely will die, then you've got like then you respawn, and now like immediately the immersion's a little bit broken because like you've just died, you've just lost, and now you're just back there again. So then it's like, okay, I'll do that, but I'll do this a little bit differently this time. And then you die again, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is what affects it, this is how it works. And it's like every time you use a little bit of trial and error to kind of work out what the rules are, it breaks the immersion a little bit. And for me, like horror games, immersion is everything. So that kind of defeats it a little bit. I think, and you know, this might be a controversial take, but I think horror games should be easy. I think horror games, you shouldn't die. You should just feel like you're going to a lot. I think like Phasmophobia does a really good job of that, where like it always feels like the ghost is going to attack you and kill you, but it doesn't often actually do that unless you're on like the really hard difficulties. It kind of just makes you feel like you're in trouble, but then you survive, and that keeps it scary. As soon as you die and you realize there's no real consequences for dying, and then you start using trial and error to kind of work out what the rules of the game are, you just sort of lose that fear a little bit. It stops being as scary, it stops being as like immersive to me. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Oh, SoCal Canuck said, thanks for the guide on the shortcut to the in Koshai. I still don't know how to say that. Do check out my guide. I did a really good video. I think it's a really good video about how to get to the shopkeeper in Koshai Complex. And I think it's a good video. It's quite long, but it's worth a watch. So yeah, go check it out. It helps me out a bunch. Our video is doing quite well, actually. So maybe don't bother checking out the video. It's doing well by itself. Go check out my video about the raid. That's not doing very well. Go check out my video about Redfall. That's probably the worst performing video I've ever done, which is really sad because it's a sponsored video. And that means I'm probably going to be less likely to get sponsorships in future. So that will mean I'll make less money. And that's a really sad thing. It's been bothering me a bit lately. So go watch the Redfall video. I've got another week before I have to report statistics on it. Go watch, you know, get thousands of your friends to go watch that Redfall video would help a bunch. In other news, other than me begging you to watch my videos that are underperforming, the Asus ROG Ally has been kind of properly revealed now. I know Linus Tech Tips did a video about it that was really good, but it's been revealed. It's coming out in June. It's £699, which is, I think, a pretty reasonable price for something that seems as powerful as it is. Jack Frags has got a really good video about it that I think he posted yesterday. It seems really cool. Like, if I didn't have a Steam Deck, I'd be all over this thing. I think I'm going to go and try and install Windows on my Steam Deck maybe today, because then I've got like Battle.net launching on it, so I can get Diablo 4 working on my Steam Deck. But it's like, I would really want it to be a good experience. Like if I get not Battlefield 4, Diablo 4, if I get Diablo 4 running on my Steam Deck and it's a good experience, you know, it's fine. I can play it and it like it's 60 frames a second and it looks all right. I can read all the text and everything. Then I'll probably stick with that. But if not, then I'm going to have to install Windows on it and see if that works. Because at the moment, I kind of run Battle.net as a separate application through Linux. It's very confusing. But yeah, if it doesn't work like that, then I might sort of start thinking about getting one of these ROG Allies. Because the idea of being able to play Diablo anywhere is just amazing. Like, just incredible. I don't know if you can play Diablo 4 offline. I'm guessing you probably can't, actually. So maybe that'll be a problem. But we'll see how it goes. Speaking of Diablo, though, the last piece of news I wanted to talk about is that the Diablo 4 beta starts tonight, and you should all download it. You can download it right now. It goes live in about 11 hours, so it goes live at 8 o'clock. If you are playing the Diablo beta and you haven't played a Diablo game at launch or in a beta before, be aware today the servers won't work. Like, I would expect today I'll probably be trying to play from like 8 o'clock until like midnight. I think I'll be lucky if I get to play for half an hour. Just because, you know, they're calling this the server slam. They're opening it up so it's completely free. Anyone can do it, any platform, cross-generation, cross-platform, all of that stuff. And they're just like, yeah, we want to like torture test the servers essentially, see how they hold up, ready for the launch in a few weeks, you know, to see if there's anything they can learn from it. So yeah, I would expect queues, I would expect disconnects, all of that stuff. But I'm just so excited to play Diablo again. if you want to play it and you just want to see what Diablo's like, maybe wait till tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, the servers will be much better. In the last beta, they were fine on Saturday, especially Saturday morning. Like, there wasn't even a queue to get in or anything. But yeah, it's well worth checking out. Diablo 4's probably, like, that and Starfield are the two games I'm most excited about this year. And yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. And then the final sort of note on news, which this isn't news, but I know there's leaks and stuff that come out about Call of Duty. I know there's a bunch of them. I'm not going to talk about any of them. I'm not going to say what they even relate to, other than there are leaks for Call of Duty, various ones that I know are interesting. Like, I know it's the sort of thing where people are like, that'd be a fun thing to talk about. That's not really what this podcast is. It bothers me a little bit when I'm listening to, like, I listen to the IGN podcast, I listen to the Kinda Funny podcast, I listen to Play Watch Listen, Alana Pierce's podcast. I listen to all of those, and so I used to listen to Easy Allies podcast, but I don't really anymore. In all of those podcasts, one thing that always used to bother me was just that they would start talking about these leaks and rumors and stuff like that, and often it would spoil something that was happening. You know, it'd spoil a new game, it would spoil an announcement, a reveal, or any of that stuff. And I don't want that to happen. I'm not saying that, like, there's anything wrong with people who want to read it. Oh, I mean, there's a bit wrong with it, but I know people want to read the leaks and stuff like that. That's fine. They're super hard to avoid. You know, Charlie Intel posts them everywhere. They'll end up on the front page of, like, Eurogamer or IGN or something. It's very hard to avoid them. But we don't need to expose more people than we have to them. You know, it's like, you don't have to share them more. There's lots of people who might listen to this podcast who don't go on Twitter, who don't read Eurogamer or IGN. I don't want to spoil anything for them. Because, yeah, I hate it when I'm listening to a podcast and then they just start talking about something that I didn't know about. And it's like, oh, this is kind of a boring way to find out about this. It would have been much cooler to find out about it in a trailer. I mean, like, recently that happened with the Tim the Tatman and Nipmuc skins in Call of Duty. And it was like, that all got leaked a few weeks ago on, like, just on Twitter. And it was like, it sort of took away from their moment, you know, like, that was a big deal for them. He could have done a big stream being like, oh my God, this is happening. But instead it was like some idiot just decided to leak it all. Someone just decided to be like, hey, this is happening, and sort of take away from the fun of it. And it's like, I really enjoy the kind of fun and almost like pageantry of things like E3 or Summer Games Fest or the Game Awards. I enjoy those big reveals. I like it when Call of Duty posts a new trailer at the beginning of a season. Like, I like looking at it and being like, oh, wow, what's that? Like, what's that going to be? That's cool. Having, like, the speculation and the surprises is, like, the most fun part of the game's news cycle for me. Reading about what's happening on, like, Twitter or what's going to happen on, like, you know, the front page of Eurogamer or on a YouTube thumbnail or something is less exciting to me. So I'm always a bit conscious. I'm always a bit, like, careful not to talk about stuff. But in case anyone's wondering, like, why isn't he talking about the Call of Duty leaks and stuff? It's just like, I think it's a boring way to find out about that stuff. And if you haven't seen them, good for you. I hope that you don't see anything until, like, they get revealed in, like, due course. Like, that's a much more exciting thing. I really hate it with, like, some of the past games. Like, Black Ops Cold War is a really good example where we did the whole Pawn Takes Pawn thing. And the point of Pawn Takes Pawn was that we were meant to unlock the first trailer for Black Ops Cold War. And it was like, but by the time that happened, everyone already knew what the game was because it had been on, like, some Doritos pack in Mexico or something. And it was like, that was really disappointing. Like, that was kind of annoying that everyone knew about it. So it was like, the big reveal was just like, oh yeah, this is the thing we were expecting. Like, that's not as exciting. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about the leaks and stuff like that. Occasionally I talk about, like, gaming news on here where it's like, there's a slightly dubious source in terms of, like, you know, Reuters have reported on it, or it was in an earnings call or something like that. And that's because, again, like everything, it's not like a black and white thing. It's not obviously binary of, like, what's okay and what's not. I just kind of have my own internal compass on it of what I think is going to spoil someone's experience and what isn't, and what counts as a leak. You know, to me, if it's been in some sort of official announcement, it's fine, it's fair play. If it's, like, in something where it's like if it's like a rumor or something like that, then I probably won't talk about it. But anyway, that's kind of what my stance is on that. But most of you know that. But speaking of new games that are unannounced, let's talk about the Summer Games Fest. I forgot what it was called for a second. I saw someone calling it Key 3, as in Jeff Keighley's E3, which I really like. But yeah, so this summer, normally, for anyone who doesn't know, for anyone who's listening to this but doesn't really follow gaming news that much, every summer in June, there's a show called E3. And it's been like really tumultuous for the whole time it's existed. Sometimes it's been like the biggest week in gaming, where like all of the big console creators and publishers have like their own special shows where they announce all of the games for the next year or two, and they show off a load of amazing trailers. They always try to have some kind of surprises and stuff, or most of the time. And it's, all held in the Anaheim Convention Center in LA. So loads of people go there. They get loads of people on stage. It's like always quite an exciting thing to watch. Like it's just a fun thing to watch. But it's always been in, trouble. Like there's always been problems with it in terms of how it's run. It was shut down for a few years. I think they tried to move it to Las Vegas for a little while, and that didn't work out very well. The people who run it have always had like a kind of a view of like how they're going to make money from it. And that's kind of been at odds with how a lot of the publishers and developers seem to see it. And, fans always see it a bit differently. Like E3, as far as I understand, always used to be for the publishers to meet with retailers and say like, hey, these are the games that we're going to have coming out. These are the games, you should buy lots of copies of this for us because you're going to sell a bunch. These are going to be the exciting things. This is what you're going to need to plan for. And then as it expanded, it became like the media picked up on it, and the media were like, hey, this is a cool thing for like, we can show normal people about the games. We get some cool gaming news here. And then they did a big thing where like lots of journalists started going for previews and stuff like that. And, the game companies saw it as a way to basically reveal their games to the world in a fairly controlled setting. But they did often let the people play it. And then you had loads of people in the public being like, hey, I want to play these games. I want to like have a go at the new games that aren't coming out yet, or the new consoles that aren't coming out yet. And there was always this odd thing where it was like, even though it was technically industry only, lots of people would go, whereas, people would bring their kids, people would bring their wives or their husbands or their friends. And, there was always an element of a lot of people were just going to have fun. Like, not everyone was really there to work. I used to go to Gamescom, and like we'd get invited to like the business day on the Wednesday, where it's just meant to be industry. And you'd see like a bunch of 10-year-olds running around and be like, these 10-year-olds probably aren't in the gaming industry. I mean, nowadays they might be creators and influencers, I don't know. But back then, it felt very strange seeing a lot of people who very clearly weren't in the industry. And to be honest, I was just there saying that I was like a review site, but I was there just to play everything and eat all the free food and drink all the free drink. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, yeah, so that was E3. And then E3, since COVID, hasn't really got back on its feet. Lots of the big publishers have sort of realized that, Nintendo started doing their directs where instead of doing a stage show, they would just do these very curated videos before it goes out. And then like Sony started being like, hey, that's a good idea. We'll start doing state of play. Xbox have sort of abandoned E3 quite a while ago. They have their own conference center over the road. So they would hold stuff there. I think it's called the Bethesda Center or something. And so they would hold their stuff there. And more companies just started being like, why do we need to do these big, expensive stage shows and have all of this show floor space? We're not really getting anything from it. And I think it's the ESA who run E3. They were like, trying to find ways to make it more relevant. And they started pushing the idea. I think this year the plans were that there was going to be a big bar in the middle, and they were going to get loads of celebrities to be playing the games. And everyone was a bit like, this doesn't seem like it's going to go great. So loads of companies pulled out. E3 is no more. And Jeff Keighley Jeff Keighley's a sort of big personality within the gaming space. He has done lots of presenting work and stuff like that, and worked various companies, doing this sort of, interviewing people about games, presenting games. And he decided to start doing his own thing. So he's been running the Game Awards for a while, which is in December, where he, does some Game Awards, but that's not really the point of it. The point is more to have some announcements. And then he started doing the Gamescom opening night live, where he does like a little show where they reveal a lot of stuff that's going to be at Gamescom. And then he started doing the Summer Games Fest, where it was like, it's a bit of a weird one where I think the first time he did it, he was just like, yeah, everyone who's showing off games in the summer is part of Summer Games Fest. And it was kind of, did they agree to this? Because he was just saying the Xbox conference, Summer Games Fest, the Sony conference, Summer Games Fest. It was all a bit weird. Nintendo Directs, a Summer Games Fest. It was all a bit weird. But now he started doing like an actual proper show. And it's basically like E3. Like, it is E3 basically in all but name. Except I don't think it's got quite such a massive show floor. I think they've gone back to having a smaller thing where they do invite people out to play some of the games, and then they just claim all of the kind of shows as being a part of Summer Games Fest. But it means that we get loads of announcements. So it means like Jeff Keighley's just announced all of the different partners who are going to be showing off games at Summer Games Fest. I've got a list of them, and so I'm going to go through this list and try to talk about some of the things I would like to see from each of these companies. And I'll try to make it clear as we go through what sort of things I think are likely and what sort of things are just me, a pipe dream. But yeah, I'll try to do like a dream announcement for each of these companies, or at least the companies that I know who they are. Because some of these companies, I've got no idea who they are, so I'm just going to skip over them. So the first one, oh, and let me know in the chat and in the comments, what sort of things are you hoping to see from Summer Games Fest? I'll read out the stuff from chat at the end of the podcast. But yeah, let me know in the comments as well, just what sort of games from each of these companies would you like to see? So the first one is Activision Blizzard. Traditionally, Activision would show off Call of Duty at E3. They would normally, like, the way they used to do it was there would be a Call of Duty campaign level at E3. They would literally play through a bit of the campaign, and then you would have to wait till Gamescom for the multiplayer trailer. That's just kind of how it always used to work. Obviously, they've messed around with that a lot recently. Like Black Ops Cold War wasn't revealed until August. Modern Warfare 2019, I think, was revealed in May. I think like they've been bouncing around a lot with the dates. I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of announcement in June, like even if it's just a teaser trailer or something like that. I think like there's a chance we could get something like that, and that'd be pretty cool. For me, the big thing from Activision, I mean, the biggest thing for Activision Blizzard is always going to be, are they going to do World of Warcraft 2? Like, that would always be the biggest thing for me. I don't think there's any chance of it happening. I don't think there's any signs of it happening. World of Warcraft is still going pretty strong. I would love it if they did World of Warcraft 2. Like, just so much, a new start, reboot the story a little bit, say it's a parallel universe, I don't care. So then they can keep the original going, but have like a new combat engine, new graphics engine. I would be so happy. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. I do think it would make them all of the money, but it would also cost them all of the money. So I can see why they don't want to do it. I would just want it. My second like dream thing, which again, I don't think is going to happen, but is more likely, is StarCraft 3. There's been a weird flurry of activity over the last year. Flurry isn't too strong of a word, but there's been an idea that StarCraft 2 has had a lot more support in this year than it normally does. There's been quite a lot of patches. There's been a few little updates to map pools and things like that. I think there was a couple of new maps even, which for a very old game is quite unusual. And the tournaments are starting to pick up a little bit more attention. It's doing a bit better on Twitch. It's doing a bit better in Korea again. There was a bit of a lull for a while. I bought some really cheap coffee from the co-op yesterday, and it tastes bad. I'm not a connoisseur of coffee at all, but that is an unpleasant cup of coffee. It was only $1.99 for a jar, but I don't know. Maybe I'll grow to like it. It just didn't taste how I expected it to. Anyway, yeah, there's been more activity, and I think there's a lot of people are like, are they trying to get people interested in StarCraft again, ready for a StarCraft 3? I don't even know how well a StarCraft 3 could do. And it's like StarCraft 2, it's hard to see really how they could improve on it. You can't even the graphics look really good for what it is. And it's like, if you made it look much better, it might make it less clear what's going on. I think there's stuff they could do, like they could make StarCraft free to play. Like they could have a free to play StarCraft that's got a sort of, more live service features, more that's like designed as a live service. I definitely think that would be interesting. And it's kind of something that I don't think has really been done in the real-time strategy space, is trying to do a good live service real-time strategy game. But that, I think, is possible. I would just really like to see renewed interest in StarCraft because I bloody love it. So we'll see how it's going. Can I put it on screen? Put what on screen? I'm not sure. I'm just reading a list on Eurogamer of which companies are going to be there. I can find the graphic for you if you want. I think Jeff Keighley tweeted it out, and I can put that on screen. Are you saying you don't want to see my face, Dr. Dynamite? I find that very, very offensive. But, we'll see how it's going. We'll see. I understand. There we go. So I'll put that, open a new tab. F11, zoom out a bit. There we go. There you go. These are the partners. So Activision's that one in the top left. So, I think we're seeing them as Activision Blizzard. So, my prediction for the most likely thing that we would get as an announcement from Activision is Call of Duty. I think that's fairly likely. Like, it makes sense. But Blizzard showing off, yeah, something for World of Warcraft, something for StarCraft would be amazing. It is worth pointing out Diablo will already be out by then. Overwatch 2 is already out. I don't think we're expecting anything new from Blizzard. Like, I don't think there's any other games in the pipeline that we know that are coming. World of Warcraft, like, I don't think it's time for a new expansion yet. They've just done an expansion for Dragonflight. They've just done a patch update. So I don't think we'd see something like an expansion for World of Warcraft. So it does seem like if there's anything from Blizzard, it'll probably be quite exciting. Or it could be a Hearthstone expansion, which I wouldn't care about. Who knows? But Activision, you know, I suppose there's always the chance that it could be like Crash Bandicoot or a new Tony Hawk's or something like that. I don't know. I can't imagine they would do a new Tony Hawk's, but you never know if they're going to do it. Am I on Diablo 4 today? Yes, I am, Madjock. From 8 o'clock, I will be on there for sure, and I am super excited about it. Right, the next one is this little logo is Amazon Games. Amazon Games have made Lost Ark. Well, they haven't Lost Ark, actually. They just published Lost Ark over in Europe and America. They did New World. I know they were working on a Lord of the Rings MMO. I'm not sure if that's really happening or not. In terms of what I'd like to see from them, I don't really care with Amazon. I think, like, I wouldn't be that excited about any games they announce because they've just cancelled so much and they've messed up so much. New World and Lost Ark were pretty good, but not amazing. And everything else is a bit boring. I would like to see them doing something with Twitch. I think that would be my most exciting announcements, like that I could imagine coming from Amazon, is that they're doing something substantial with Twitch, like some big upgrade to Twitch, some big like way that Twitch interfaces with games that it didn't before. That would be quite cool, I think. I think like Twitch right now feels like quite an old website. Like it feels like it's quite an old viewing experience. I think there's a lot of ways that they could make it better. You know, like when you look at some things like Trovo and Kick and things like that, they've just got little things that are all stuff that we expect from modern social media apps that Twitch is just lacking. So like on Kick, you can add reactions to comments. I think that's pretty cool. Like that's a pretty fun thing. On Trovo, I think you can do stuff where like people can make their little rooms in a chat. So say if you were watching Tim the Tatman and you don't want to like just lose your chat messages with a load of other people, you could be in his chat with a few of your friends, but just in your own little room, just in your own little chat room, chatting to people, or, you know, like talking to people who are, you know, like-minded and stuff. They like Tim the Tatman could make a room being like, hey, we're going to put this room, which is just for people who care about competitive Call of Duty, or this room for people who are just here to like spam memes and stuff. You know, there's stuff like that I would love it if Twitch found a way to do it. So for Amazon Games, my big thing would be, can they do some more stuff with Twitch? Or even making games that kind of run within Twitch somehow, so it's easier to play with viewers. I think stuff like that would be very cool. I definitely think there's a chance to do it. It's easier to recognize the logo than the name. Yeah, but it just says games. It's like, what? It's like, oh, Amazon. Okay. Annapurna, like I said, Layers of Fear is Annapurna. They do a lot of kind of cool, vaguely indie-ish first-person horror puzzle games. I'd like to see a bit more of their puzzle game stuff. I think they've done some cool stuff with puzzle games, and I'd like to see more of that. But other than that, I don't really know. I couldn't say a specific game that I'd want to see Annapurna make. I'd like to see the Silent Hill 2 remake. I think that's them doing it, isn't it? I think they're publishing it. I'm not sure. Maybe Konami's publishing it. I don't know. Bandai Namco, obviously Elden Ring DLC would be nice to get a bit of a look at, especially to see like if there's new weapon types and stuff like that. If, you know, there's something really that changes Elden Ring. I feel like the Elden Ring DLC is very likely to be just more of the same, but it would be cool if there's something more to it than that. Armored Core 6 is kind of exciting. I think Bandai Namco are going to be publishing that, so that'll be kind of fun. I'm a little bit disappointed with them lately just because of Park Beyond. I finally got in touch with them about Park Beyond, and then they let me play it, and it was like, oh, sorry, this isn't very good. So I felt bad about it. But yeah, so Bandai Namco, I don't really know what I would really like them to announce, to be honest. Let's have a look. I'm just going to Google on my other screen. Actually, I'll do it on my phone. What Bandai Namco, like franchises? Franchises, there we go. So they have like Pac-Man, Tekken, Digimon, Mr. Driller. Oh, Soul Calibur. I'd like a new Soul Calibur. Ace Combat. I'd like a new Ace Combat. Ace Combat's another game that I think they could go like a free-to-play live service model you know, where you unlock planes, just basically do War Thunder, but with really fast jets and ridiculous buildings. I think that could be a lot of fun. I would quite like to see a little bit more from that. Obviously, I'd always like to see something new from Software, like some new Dark Souls, a Bloodborne remaster, something like that would be super cool. I'm just having a look to see if there's anything else on here that I would care about. Not really. I think, yeah, Soul Calibur would be awesome. Ace Combat would be awesome. Those things I'd be actually excited about. And obviously, any new sort of Souls-like type game is always a good time. I think with Elden Ring, I was a bit like, oh, I got a bit bored of Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro. Like, you know, I don't really care about another one. And it's like, I was so wrong about that game. That game was so good. It's now I'm in that camp with everyone else of like, yep, if they announce a new game that's like a Soulsborne game, I will be 100% in and excited about it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. The next one is Behavior. Does anyone know what games these make? I feel like I've seen that logo before, but Behavior Interactive, they're called. They made Dead by Daylight. I think they are... Oh, Fallout Shelter. That's weird that they made that as well. So yeah, they made Dead by Daylight and Meet Your Maker. I didn't think much of Meet Your Maker, but I did like Dead by Daylight. They made Doritos Crash Course. Can anyone remember that? It's like a free game on Xbox 360. And it was like genuinely really good. I got a platinum on it. You know, getting all the game score on it. I really enjoyed that game a lot. They've made a lot of kind of weird... They made Wet as well. That was a 2009 game that was super good. Like a third person... you know, like action, you running through stuff using a sword and guns and stuff to kill everyone. That was cool. That was a very stylish game. That was awesome. So I'm just looking through. They've made some weird licensed game. It does seem like... oh, they made an Indiana Jones game as well. Dead by Daylight definitely seems like their kind of big thing. So, you know, obviously them doing anything like that is always exciting. Are they doing Texas Chainsaw Massacre or is that someone else? Oh no, they're working on Silent Hill Ascension apparently, so that's probably what they'll be showing off, sadly. I mean, I would love it if they did some sequels to some of those older games. That'd be cool if they did like a Wet 2. Oh, that sounds terrible. But if they did that, that would be kind of cool. Yeah, that'd be cool if like or some movie tie-in games or something like that. That would be awesome. We'll run through because you know otherwise we're going to run out of time and spend ages on all of these. Capcom. Obviously, everybody always wants to see Dino Crisis from Capcom. That's always an exciting thing. I would quite like to see them go back to the whole Capcom versus the Marvel versus Street Fight, Marvel versus Capcom. That's what it's called. I couldn't get the name right. Marvel versus Capcom. I know the one Marvel versus Capcom Infinite or whatever it's called was quite bad. Marvel Infinite, whatever they called that, was quite bad. But I think there's a lot there. Like there's a chance to make a really good game, especially with how popular the Marvel Cinematic Universe is. They could even do one that's kind of based on the films, you know, much more based on the film version of everything rather than the comic version. That could be quite cool. I think that would be the most exciting thing for me from Capcom. But obviously something like Dino Crisis or a new Resident Evil. Like, I really enjoyed Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village. If they showed off like the third part of that trilogy, that would be super exciting to me. And it'd be interesting to see where they've gone. You know, they've gone house, they've gone village. Will it be like city? And we'll have one that's like, you know, in some sort of like decaying building in New York or something like that. That would be cool. Or like a city block. That would be awesome. Next one, CD Projekt Red. I'm always a bit lukewarm about CD Projekt Red. Like most people, I really enjoyed Witcher 2. I loved Witcher 3. They're very, very good games. I don't think they're quite as perfect as a lot of people make out, but they are very good games. I didn't like Cyberpunk 2077 at all. I would like to see more Witcher, you know, like a Witcher 4 or anything would be really, really cool. I feel like they should, in my mind, they should stick to that kind of game and not be too ambitious. I think Cyberpunk was a good example of like, hey, you got really ambitious and it didn't really work. Maybe tone it down. Like a smaller Witcher game would be really cool. Like going back a bit more to like Witcher 2, where it's not one big open world, but it's kind of open areas that you move through. And it focuses a bit more on the story and the characters and like how your decisions affect them. I would quite like to see something like that again. I think that would be really cool. But you know, with how successful Witcher 3 was, I can't imagine they'll ever make anything that isn't something like Witcher 3 again. Or at least not for a long while. Devolver Digital make crazy stuff. They do insane stuff. They do their own show, the Devolver Showcase, that's always kind of a parody of other E3 shows, and it's always violent and disgusting and entertaining. One year, when it was the pandemic, they released a free game where you could explore where E3 should have been held at the convention center and see the Devolver booth. And there was like killer robots and stuff going around. But if you got to their booth, you could actually play games like Shadow Warrior and stuff like that, like the games they had coming out. It was very cool. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, Devolver, like, I don't really care about if they do another Shadow Warrior or something like that. I'll keep on Googling all of these to make sure I'm not missing any games. But what could they possibly announce that would be super good in terms of sequels or anything? I don't know. I feel like there's not much that Devolver have put out that I've ended up really liking. A new Hotline Miami would be cool. Hotline Miami is really good, and I'm sure they could do something kind of interesting. I think like the best thing about Devolver have always been that they do interesting things. Like they do stuff that's unexpected and new. So expecting a sequel from them seems like kind of a shame. I would like to see them do something new. I'd like to see like the teams from Hotline Miami creating a different kind of game. Like imagine, Hotline Miami developers but making a racing game, or Hotline Miami people but making a detective game or something like that. That would be very, very cool. Don't want to hear rumors. Thank you, Doctor. Like I said, like I said earlier, I don't think leaks and stuff like rumors are just leaks or lies. There's one or the other. There's no in between ground. So yeah, I don't want to hear rumors and stuff like that. Thank you. Speculation of what you want to see is always good though. Right, what are Digital Extremes? I don't even know what they make. The lag gets you again. Really? I haven't had any frame drops since the first couple of minutes of the stream, so that might be your end if there's any lag or anything like that. Oh, you mean the delay between the thing? I see what you're talking about. Sorry, I'm getting very worried about the I'm getting very worried about the whole the thing on YouTube or my internet connection being bad. I understand what you mean now. You mean I said something just at the same time as you said it. That makes sense. Digital Extremes are the people behind Warframe. Warframe's another one of those games, a bit like World of Warcraft, where it's like, I'm sure they won't do a sequel, because why would they? Warframe's doing incredibly well. But I'd love them to make a sequel. Like, Warframe now, if you install it, it's so bloated, it's quite old, the graphics are, like, they're okay, but they're not amazing. And it's just like, there's so much to do now, that it's amazing for people who have stuck with Warframe for the last 10 years, or however long it's been out. But if you go into it now, it's quite intimidating. It's quite big. I always get into it and I'm like, oh my God, I love the movement in this. I love how fast it is. Why don't I play this all the time? And then you get about 3 hours in and then it's like, okay, what do you want to do now? Here's like an entire universe of different things to do. But if you want to get anything good, you're going to have to grind the same activity hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And it's like, I don't want to do that. So if they made a new Warframe that was, again, a slimmed down, more polished version, I would be super up for that. Oh, they published it. Yeah, but I mean, that it doesn't matter. For the sake of this, it doesn't matter whether they published it or developed it, because they could announce, they would be the ones to announce a new thing. When you see the partners for this, it's like the publishers are usually the ones to announce something, not the developers. So, yeah, sorry, apologies if I say that these people develop the stuff. I really mean that they publish it. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I keep saying that today. I don't really know why. The next ones, we need to hurry up. God, I'm taking ages. Let's run through some of these quickly. Disney. What do I want to see from Disney? Split Second. Always. I want to see Split Second from Disney. I want Disney to make Split Second 2. Split Second is a racing game that was absolutely incredible, but just because of the generation it came out in, it runs at 30 frames a second on consoles. For some reason, I can't get a controller to work with it on PC. I have to use mouse and keyboard, which absolutely sucks. It doesn't look that great anymore. But it's such an amazing idea for a game. It's an arcade racer where the idea is it's a TV show, so it's about entertainment. And by racing in fun ways, by like drifting and doing near misses and stuff like that, you build up a meter. You can spend that meter to make stuff happen on the track. So you can spend a little bit of it to just make something small happen, like a door can shut or open, a shortcut can open, or a wrecking ball will swing across the track and just like hit one car out of the way. Or you can spend like 2 points of it, and then you can do slightly bigger things, like maybe the entire route will change a little bit. Maybe there'll be something that slows those people down for a little while, like a load of stuff will get dropped onto the track and create a bunch more obstacles. Or you can save it up and spend 3 on it, and then something like cataclysmic happens. Like the first track, the one that people remember the most, is the airport. And literally a plane crashes into the track, and like a jumbo jet crashes into the track, and now you have to drive across the runway. Or no, the first time someone uses it, It makes the air traffic control tower collapse. That falls across the track, which means people now have to drive on the runway. Then the second time someone does it, a plane crashes onto the track while you're racing in sports cars. It's just magnificent. It's such an amazing game, and it's such a shame that we never got a sequel to it. I would love another Split. That would like be my most exciting announcement for this entire show if we got Split Second 2. I'd also be super excited if they did something, you know, like with they've got a Star Wars license. If they did something with Pod Racer. Essentially, I want Disney to make more racing games. Their Speedstorm game looks loads of fun. I didn't want to buy the Founders Pack because it's going to be free to play at some point, and Disney haven't approved me yet. Oh, and I've just got a notification about when Zelda's going to be delivered. I'm just going to stop the podcast while I look at my phone to see when it's going to be delivered. It's due to be delivered today. Thanks for telling me. I already knew that. Bloody hell. But yeah, if Disney did a racing game, like, yeah, so Speedstorm, they said, oh yeah, we should be able to get you a code for it. We just need to get you okayed by Disney. And apparently Disney haven't okayed me. I don't know what's wrong with me. But yeah, well, they haven't said no. They just keep on saying, yeah, they haven't got back to us yet. And that was like a month ago. But Speedstorm seems like a lot of fun. Pod Racer is one of my favorite racing games. Split Second is one of my favorite racing games. I want Disney to make more racing games. Please, Disney, just do that. EA's a big one, isn't it? Like, what are EA gonna be working on? What are EA? And we're just talking about, like, obviously there's some games that we're likely to see more of, like Skate 3 we'll probably see more of, Formula 1 2023, F1 Manager 2023 maybe, you know, all of the sports games, FIFA 24, Man 24, all of those kind of things. There's a lot of stuff that we're expecting. I don't know if it's likely, but I would love to see more of the new Mass Effect. You know, they've been teasing this new Mass Effect for a while. I would really like to see more of that. If there was a new Battlefield, I think I'd lose my mind. I don't think there is, but if there's a new Battlefield, that would be super exciting. Battlefield 2042, for all of its problems, the reveal of it was super cool. It was like a really fun time, just being like, oh my god, this is something that could be like an alternative to Call of Duty. And then, you know, and now it actually is. Like, now it's actually really good. But when it came out of launch, it was a bit of a shame. But yeah, I think for EA, I would be most excited to see something from the Mass Effect, see some gameplay from Mass Effect. It'd be kind of cool if they were going in trying to like steal Starfield's thunder a little bit, and they were like, hey, look at this, like this would be really cool. In terms of like unannounced things so far, I don't know what EA, yeah, like Battlefield is probably the biggest thing. I don't know if I would care that much about a new Mirror's Edge. Something came out in their financial report that said Dragon Age isn't coming out this year, so we're not going to see much more of that, I don't think. I'm not really sure what else they could announce that I would be super excited about. Oh, actually, no, I take all of that back. I do know what they could announce that I'd be super excited about. Two things. A new Burnout from Criterion, although they're working on Need for Speed now, so that seems like that's basically impossible. That's not going to happen. Or a new Battlefront. Battlefront 3. Star Wars Battlefront 3. I feel like people are slowly coming to terms of the fact that Star Wars Battlefront 2 was actually an incredible game. And everyone just got really like militant about what they saw as pay-to-win mechanics that I still don't think were pay-to-win mechanics. I think the pay-to-win mechanics in Battlefront 2 were way less of a big deal than the ones in DMZ. You know, as someone that played a lot of Battlefront 2 at launch, the whole thing that people had problem with didn't really matter. Like, it didn't really make much difference to what that game was. That game was never a competitive game. It was always a kind of, you're experiencing Star Wars battles, you're having some fun with it. It needed a bit of balancing, but like that was about it. It was such an incredible, like it looked incredible, it sounded amazing, it had such a range of like maps and vehicles and characters. They got like the thing of playing as heroes was unbelievably good in it, way better than any of the other Battlefront games. Like, you could play as BB-8 and BB-8 was effective. Like, that was cool. That was really fun. You could like be BB-8 chasing Darth Maul. Like, how many games that you do that? But yeah, and like even the Ewok mode they had where you were like either some stormtroopers, but you were in the dark being hunted by Ewoks. That was amazing. That was really cool. It was just like a really amazing game. The campaign was surprisingly fun. The space combat was fun. It was just a really good game. And it's one of those games, I think it's like one of the earlier games that I can remember being really annoyed with the kind of Twitter community for how people were super negative about it. I think it was Twitter. I don't know, wherever I was reading stuff about it. Like the way people were so militantly against it as if like it was the worst thing. like as if Battlefront was like a sign of how evil EA are and how like this is like the most anti-consumer thing ever. And it just wasn't that much of a, like, to me, it wasn't that much of a big deal. They had created such an incredible game, such like a brilliant Star Wars game. And then people just decided to go on this massive crusade about it. And it just like, it kind of sullied the image to the point where even on mainstream news stuff, they were like, oh, Battlefront 2 is pay to win and they're having to backtrack and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and then they did backtrack and people just like did the same thing they always do. It's the same thing like people do with Call of Duty, where they'll go on a massive campaign about some issue, you know, whether it's like one-shot snipers or the 1v1 gulag or whatever, red dots on the minimap. They'll go on some big campaign. And then if they get what they want, they just move on. They just move on to another campaign. They move on to a different game. They don't care. They don't care about actually getting what they want. They care about feeling like they're standing up to authority. They're standing up to the man. You know, they're the same sort of people. They're like, oh, all of these shills, all of these people like paid by Activision say good things about the game, blah, blah, blah. Like, these people just love feeling like they're fighting for some kind of cause, even though really they're just trying to change a feature in a toy that they like. It's just very silly. I mean, I know there are adults who also fight to get features in toys they like. You know, there's people who take Transformers very seriously and stuff like that. There's people who take My Little Pony very seriously. It's like, it's not just video gaming. But it annoys me very much when it's like, this Battlefront 2 should have been something that was celebrated as an incredible game. And it just got, like, turned into this weird, negative, toxic discourse about it. About something that wasn't... I genuinely don't think it was much of a big deal. And they changed anyway. And then people just ignored it. It does have its own community. It has people that love it. But I employ... Like, really, if you haven't tried Battlefront 2 because you heard about the pay-to-win stuff and you thought it was bad, go check it out. It's like... I'm sure you can get it incredibly cheap now, or it's on, like, Game Pass and stuff, I think. It's just an insanely fun game. It's such a good time if you like Star Wars. Bloody hell, I love Battlefront 2. I've still got it installed, actually. It's one of the few games that I hardly ever delete because it's just a lot of fun to play. Right, that's my rant going off. I would love to have Battlefront. The next one, Epic Games. What's Epic going to do? Fortnite 2? No, probably not. I would like to see Epic do an Unreal tournament. I know they've tried it on and off. I think it's different enough from Fortnite that it would be worth them doing. I imagine Epic Games will probably just be a showcase of things that come into the Epic Games Store, so they're probably not going to be working on something. Why would they? They do Unreal Engine and they do Fortnite. But if they had like an Unreal tournament, a free-to-play Unreal tournament running on Unreal 5, I'd be excited about that. I think that'd be cool. They did do this thing that was like this sort of like Unreal tournament that was super transparent and everyone could work on it. It was really weird, and then they kind of abandoned it when Fortnite got big. But I'd like them to do something where it's not like that. I don't want like a fan created thing. I'd rather it was just like, hey, this is like, we're making this super polished game, and then, you know, open up the tools so other people can make mods and maps and stuff if they want to, using Unreal Engine 5 the same way they've done Fortnite. That would be super fun. I think that could be really exciting if they did something like that. Right, next one, Focus Entertainment. I see that name a lot. I don't actually know what they do. Focus Entertainment Games. They make, the Plague Tale games, and they've also done Evil West. They did Alien Fireteams Elite a little while ago. SnowRunner. Oh, they've published loads of stuff, actually. They've published a load of really cool stuff. Mudrunner, yeah, obviously, because they did SnowRunner. Space Hulk Deathwing. So they've done a lot of Warhammer type games as well. I mean, did they not do Flight Simulator then as well? They did Farming Simulator, apparently. I thought the people that did Plague Tale Requiem did Flight Simulator for some reason. But maybe I'm just wrong about that. Oh, they're working on Space Marine 2, so we'll see more of that. I'm really excited about Space Marine 2. That's always a good time. That's always a lot of fun. So seeing more of that would be good. I feel like I don't really need more Plague Tale. I don't care about seeing more Plague Tale or anything like that. Having more Warhammer games is always a good thing, though. Like, I think the Warhammer universe has never really had many good AAA games. Like, you know, the Dawn of War games were super good. The first Space Marine third-person action combat game was fun. I think, like, you know, Vermintide stuff has been okay. I think, like, there's a chance... Oh, Total War Warhammer, I guess, as well. But Asobo is Flight Simulator. Yeah, for some reason I thought it was people who'd worked on Plague Tale. Don't know why. But yeah, anyway. What was I talking about? Yeah, like Warhammer, I think, could potentially do much better. I think like they could put a lot of money into something and make like some kind of RPG, make some kind of really awesome MMO type thing. That Warhammer was called Age of Reckoning or something, the MMO that they did. That was really fun, but then it shut down, which is a real shame. It was a lot more sort of arcadey, and the combat felt a lot better than other MMOs that were out around the same time, you know, World of Warcraft and Rift and Terra and all of those kind of things. I really liked that. I'd like a sort of Warhammer 40k MMO, a Warhammer 40k extraction shooter. That'd be cool. Well, like you start off as just like a guy, but like slowly you go through the process of, you know, like finding, maybe even that you could go in and like recruit a space marine, recruit an orc, recruit an eldar, and then if you manage to find them in the game and then like escort them out or something or do a mission for them, then you unlock them to play as, and then you've got better characters to go in with the extraction. That'd be a cool twist on extraction shooter. I haven't really thought about that, having like completely different like races and classes that you have to do missions to unlock them. Then when you unlock them, you can go into the extraction thing as them. Something like that in Warhammer would be incredible. Like imagine going into like something like Warzone, but as a space marine or as a tyrannid. That would be amazing. Absolutely cool. Yeah, so it is the same people who did Flight Simulator and Plague Tale. I was right then. I thought so. I guess Focus just didn't publish Flight Simulator. But it was the same people that worked on those two games. That's what I thought. That's what I was trying to get at. Right, Gearbox. Gearbox, like, I just care less and less about anything they do. Like, I think, obviously, Colonial Marines left a bad taste in my mouth, but also I didn't think Borderlands 3 was good. I feel like they have a weird way of publishing games that they are happy to publish crap. Like, they just seem to have a very low quality bar, and that really kind of annoys me. In terms of stuff they've published, I mean, it does seem like it's almost entirely Borderlands since they did Aliens Colonial Marines, just looking at this list. They tried Battleborn, but obviously that got shut down quickly. I just don't care too much what they do. Oh, they've got Homeworld, so they're working on Homeworld 3, so I guess we'll see a bit more of that, and that's fine. You know, I'm always excited for it to be a new real-time strategy game. But I just don't care about... I just don't care about Gearbox. What if they pick up a different license, and you know it's a license I care about? Like they were like, "Hey, we're making a Star Wars game." I would then be less excited about that Star Wars game. That would be a shame. Oh my god, I got 7 minutes to get through them. Let's do some quick ones. Grinding Gear Games. No idea. What do they do? Anybody know what Grinding Gear Games make? Grinding Gear Games. Let's check it out. Grinding Gear Games make... I literally am struggling to even find what they've done. Games developed. They made Path of Exile. Oh, so they're the people behind Path of Exile. I mean, they're going to show off some more stuff, Path of Exile 2. If we got a release date for that, that would be super exciting. But while I've been waiting for Diablo 4, I've tried to get into Path of Exile again. I've tried so many times to get into that game. I just don't like it. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Diablo, in my mind. I think it's because people who really love it generally are people who really love Diablo 2, which is the one I didn't really play. I grew up with Diablo 1, and then I played a lot of 3. So I like the kind of slightly faster, more arcadey, more streamlined version of it, rather than the super deep, complex, numbers-heavy version of it. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with Path of Exile 2, but if they're just like doubling down on the complexity and depth, then I think it will be much more Diablo 4 for me, rather than that. The next one is Hoyoverse. What do they do? Hoyoverse, they make Genshin Impact. Don't know anything about that. Gonna skip it. K are Kabam. Kabam Games. What do they make? They make Marvel Contest of Champions. They do mobile gaming. Don't care about it. Larian. Larian I've heard of. Larian Studios. Video games. What do they make? They make the Divinity games. Oh, they're working on Baldur's Gate 3. So I guess Baldur's Gate will be their big thing. I haven't played any of Baldur's Gate 3 yet. Like, it's in... like early access at the moment, which I find a bit weird. I think you can just sort of play the first act of it, but I don't want to play it and then it get better and then we need to start it again. You know, Baldur's Gate is the kind of game I played. Baldur's Gate 2, and I don't know if I know anyone that's ever played Baldur's Gate 1. I never hear anyone talk about it. But anyway, Baldur's Gate 2 I played through and really enjoyed it, but that's the sort of game that I'm only ever going to play through once. And Baldur's Gate 3 will be the same, so I'm kind of waiting for the full release. I think it's meant to come out in the summer. So if they announce like a definite release date for that and stuff and show it off a bit more, I'd be excited for that. But I don't expect them to show off anything like new for it at all. Then we've got Level Infinite Games. They made Goddess of Victory Nike. Don't know. Something to do with Tencent. Don't know them. Magic the Gathering. I mean, Magic the Gathering's always fun. I know Name Gear's like super into it. I feel like it's taken him away from playing Warzone a lot of the time, so I'm vaguely resentful of it. But I don't really expect them to be announcing any crazy new games. It'll probably just be their like online version of it. NeoWiz Games. It's quite interesting looking at all these publishers who I don't know about. They make a load of games I've never... Oh, Lies of P. They're doing that new sort of creepy Pinocchio type game. That looks super cool. I'm intrigued to see more of it. I don't know the company well enough to know what else I would want from them. But I'm super intrigued about that Lives of P game. I know I knew someone who went to Gamescom last year and they said that was the best game they played, that they really loved it. Thanks for subscribing, Mr. Creepy. It's a bit creepy. But yeah, I'm really excited to see more of that. Netflix, again, a bit like Amazon. I'm intrigued to see what Netflix do in the streaming space. Netflix have like their own gaming thing. That's amazing. If you have a Netflix subscription, download the Netflix app on your phone and look at the games. You can download so many really good mobile games for free. It's crazy. But anyway, I've always heard like vague rumors and I've always been intrigued about the idea that Netflix would try to compete with Twitch and Google, YouTube. And, it makes sense just because they're a big streaming company. I would love it if Netflix started inviting people to come stream on Netflix. So like in the Netflix app, on your phone, on your TVs, whatever, there's a way you can go through and watch people playing Warzone, watch people playing whatever. I think like the big benefit Netflix has over things like Kick and Trovo and stuff like that is not just their infrastructure, but also that not everyone, but a lot of people already have Netflix installed on their TVs. And I think they could really go hard on something that Twitch is quite bad at, is their TV integration. YouTube's not bad at it. Lots of TVs run YouTube really well now, but Netflix, really, really high quality like TV apps, they could do streaming in a really interesting way. So I would love it for Netflix to make some announcement like that they're getting into the streaming game as a competitor to Twitch and Amazon. I would be like 100% interested in streaming on Netflix. That'd be cool. Right, I'm going to run through the rest very quickly. Niantic do those things like Pokemon Go and stuff like that. I think they've got a Monster Hunter version of that coming out. That'd be kind of exciting to see a bit more of that. I don't know anything about Nexon or North Beach Games. Paradox make all those big games like Crusader Kings, and they've just done Age of Wonders 4, which I do have a key for and I need to play a bit more of. I played the tutorial and I want to play some more of that. There's some funny things that can happen in it. It's just there's a lot of other big games at the moment. But Paradox, like, I don't love their games enough. I would like to see a bit more of them making kind of city builder games, like, or, transport games. I think they have some, like, Railroad Tycoon type things. I'd like to see a bit more of that. Pearl Abyss, I don't know, although I feel like I should. Same for Phoenix. PlayOn publish a million different things at the moment, so it's kind of hard to say. But we're going to skip ahead to PlayStation. What would we like to see from PlayStation? Because they're another big one, and we've got like another set of big ones still to go, and the time's pretty much up. I should have planned this out better. I really apologize. I should have just focused on the big three, shouldn't I? Rather than trying to go through all of them. What are PlayStation going to potentially announce that would be big? Obviously, they'll show off more Spider-Man. I imagine that'll be the biggest thing. Last of Us multiplayer would be awesome to finally see that, what their factions type thing is. See whether it is, like a team deathmatch thing, or whether it's like an extraction shooter or battle royale, or how they're going to do that. I don't think we'll see Wolverine, because I think they'll wait until Spider-Man's out before we see anything to do with that. I'd be kind of interested in seeing something new, like a new Killzone or something like that. We haven't had a Killzone for a while. I'd like to see a really fancy Killzone, fancy graphics. I don't know what else they could possibly do. It's in June, Bods, beginning of June, like June 10th, I think. Obviously, all these things are different days. I think Xbox's conference is on like June 12th. But yeah, PlayStation for me, I think Last of Us, it will be the biggest thing I'd be excited about. But if it's like a completely unannounced thing that we don't know about, then yeah, Killzone would be pretty exciting. Don't know who Pocket Pair are. Razer obviously mostly make gaming peripherals. I don't know if they really publish games. Samsung don't care about. Second Dinner, don't know who they are. Sega's a weird one. Like, what could Sega make? A new Sega Rally or something like that, like a really arcadey rally game would be cool. I always just want people to make arcade racers. I want every company to make an arcade racer. If everyone got together at Summer Games Fest and said, all of these companies, for the next year, the only games that are going to be released, other than the ones we already know about, all of the new games are just arcade racing games and kart racing games, I would be so happy. Like, it would be the best year ever for me. And it's weird because on stream and stuff, I don't really play racing games very much, but it's just like, I feel like getting a new racing game is so exciting and so much fun. And I love playing racing games against other people so much that it's just kind of, I want there to be more arcade races. That sort of like, there's an old time around like the N64 era where so many games came out. You know, there was San Francisco Rush, Beetle Adventure Racing, Mario Kart was doing really well, Diddy Kong Racing. There was so many amazing games around then. And then it just kind of died out with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 generation for some reason. You know, it had a good couple, like 2 or 3 generations of tons of arcade races, and then it just kind of died out, which is a real shame. Smilegate, I don't really know what they do. Square Enix, I just want to see Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, whatever they call it. I think they did come up with a name for it, didn't they? But I can't remember what it was. But I want to see that happen. Steam, obviously, I want to see stuff from Valve. If, like, we're seeing Steam as Valve. You know, Half-Life 3. Obviously, everybody wants to see that. But I'd be really happy with Portal 3. I'd be happy with Left 4 Dead 3. I'd be happy if they did something new. I just want to see them making games again. Techland is Dying Light, isn't it? I didn't really like Dying Light 2. I imagine we'll see some DLC for that. I don't really care about it, though. Don't really care about what they're doing. Tribeca, don't know who they are. Ubisoft's an interesting one. Ubisoft, we already know some of the games that come out. You know, we know we'll probably see Skull and Bones. We'll probably see Assassin's Creed Mirage. And I'm excited to see Assassin's Creed Mirage, for sure. I would love Ubisoft to have... we've got the Splinter Cell remake. If we see the Splinter Cell remake, that would be really cool. I'd like to see some Division Heartland. That would be good. I would like it if they, you know, had some surprise announcements, like a For Honor 2 would be exciting. Rainbow Six Siege 2, you know, actually like doing a sequel to some of those live service games would be really cool, but maybe less likely. I don't think I'd be that excited about Watch Dogs 4 because I didn't like Legion that much. What else could they do that would be really exciting? Splinter Cell's probably the biggest thing that I'd be excited to see something about, but the Division Heartland as well. That would be very, very cool. There's a lot of Ubisoft games I really like. Riders Republic 2, if they were like, hey, we're going to just make a sequel to it. Absolutely go for it. Warner Brothers don't care about too much because they'll have like Justice League and stuff like that. I don't care. I mean, obviously it's always exciting if we did get a new Batman game. Oh, Mortal Kombat, I guess. There's been lots of teasers for Mortal Kombat 12 or Mortal Kombat 1 as it seems to be, based on that trailer they just released. That I would like to see, obviously, Mortal Kombat. I would also love it if they did another go at Injustice. If they did, you know, like a DC fighting game. Or, you know, just go all out, do the dream, DC versus Marvel. That would be amazing. In the Mortal Kombat engine, DC versus Marvel would blow my mind. That would be one of the best announcements that could possibly happen at this showcase. And then finally, Xbox. Xbox, what could they... I mean, there's so much stuff that Xbox could show off that we already know about. Like, they could show off Fable. They could show off Perfect Dark. They could show off Avowed, which is Obsidian's game that looks a bit like Skyrim. They could show... Which, you know, it's super exciting because when you think, like, Bethesda Game Studios did Fallout 3, which was, you know, a good game, but then Obsidian did Fallout New Vegas, that was incredible, and I loved it. Then, you know, you think Bethesda Games does Skyrim, and then Obsidian does Avowed. I'd be super excited about it. I just like the way Obsidian make games. I'd be really excited about that. So I'm really excited about Avowed. Rare's Everwild, we don't know anything about. There's so many games that we just don't know anything about that I would like to see more of. I don't really care about anything to do with Halo unless it was like Halo Battle Royale or something like that. Don't really care about a new Gears of War. I'm excited to see more Forza. I would expect at the showcase for them to shadow drop a demo for Forza. You know, like a one-track demo for it, like they've done for previous Forza Motorsport games. I'd be super excited about that. I'd be really, really happy about that. But in terms of unannounced games for Xbox, things that we don't know about at all, you know, something like Sea of Thieves 2 would be amazing. If they were just, you know, Sea of Thieves is one of those games where it's super cool and they've done a really good job of supporting it. But I think it's kind of reaching the limits of that engine. If they could do a bit more, you know, more interesting destruction in it, more interesting combat, like really work on the combat and stuff, turn that into a bit more, you know, take some of the learnings of extraction shooters and stuff and do that with Sea of Thieves. I think they could make something really, really cool. I'd love them to bring back 1 versus 100. That'd be amazing. I'd really like to see that. Can we think of anything else that Xbox would really show off that we don't know about? I don't even know what sort of franchises they have. Xbox is always a weird one where I bloody love them. Like, I really, really enjoy Xbox games, but I also don't really know that much about. I'm going to put the screen back on. I also don't know that, can't think of that many sort of franchises they have that I would be really excited about. You know, like, I would be excited about Fable and Perfect Dark, but we already kind of know about it, and it's hard to imagine that many new things that they could be announcing, that many new exciting things. I do wonder if they expected the Activision deal to go through, and maybe they were going to have like a load of joint announcements like, hey, these are the things we're going to do with Activision, and now like a lot of that might fall through. Like, that would kind of suck. You know, if like now it's like, oh, we don't really have anything to show because we were counting on this being a joint thing with Activision. That would be really disappointing. But we'll see. Dr. Dynamite said, who is your favorite publisher on this list? Like I said, I mean, Xbox in terms of hardware, like I love the Xbox. I love the Xbox ecosystem and stuff like that. It just really hurts that they have barely made any good games for a long while. You know, like their games have just seemed so, like they've made loads of, actually no, they've made loads of games that are good. They just haven't made any incredible games. You know, like Flight Simulator is really good. Plague Tale's really, really good. Hi-Fi Rush was good. Like Forza Horizon is good. There's just not been any games that have been really sort of surprising or, you know, incredible. Like, whereas, you know, Sony occasionally get something like Spider-Man or God of War or Last of Us, which are just like these insanely good games, you know, really top-tier games. You just don't have that on Xbox. You don't have something that's like quite up to those heights of those sort of super memorable, incredible games. And hopefully, you know, hopefully it does happen. Hopefully we're not just going to get like Gears of War 6 or something like that. That would be kind of a shame. But thinking of the other ones, I would say Ubisoft probably. I think Ubisoft like are... I think all of the big three publishers that I think of as like, you know, Ubisoft, EA and Activision, I think they all get a lot of flack. You know, Activision are constantly trying to innovate with Call of Duty, constantly trying to do new things, which I really like. EA do tons of stuff with EA Originals. They do some really cool licensed stuff and things like that. And while, like, yeah, they do turn out a lot of rubbish, and, you know, they do the sports games every year and stuff like that, they do make some other cool stuff. And Ubisoft, I just think, are, like, the most creative of the massive publishers, out of any of them. And I find it really annoying when people have this thing of like, oh, all Ubisoft do is they just make like the same games over and over again. It's just that everything's Far Cry and Assassin's Creed. And it's like, when you actually look at what Ubisoft puts out on a normal year, it's like you have those crazy games. You know, you have things like For Honor, Riders Republic, Roller Champions, Just Dance. You have them doing stuff that's super different to what anyone else is. And it's like, now, you know, looking forward, they've got Skull and Bones. It's obviously going to be a car crash or a ship crash. Hey, but, you know, they've got something that's a bit different. They've got probably The Crew. You know, I think they talked about the fact that there's going to be The Crew 3. So that's super exciting. We've got The Division Heartland, an extraction shooter, which I'm excited about them doing something like that. They always have something exciting that's coming out. All the Assassin's Creed stuff they announced. There's always some really cool stuff. And I think a lot of people miss out on the more interesting things. Like a lot of the people who bash Ubisoft for not being creative, how many of them gave Roller Champions a shot? Like, how many of them have played Riders Republic? How many of them tried Just Dance? How many of them played For Honor? Like, there's all of these games that are like so innovative AAA games that people just don't like give. They say like, oh, we want people to try new things, and then they just don't try the new stuff that they do. I bloody love Ubisoft. They're really good. And they support the channel quite a lot. You know, they are one of the few companies that do give me early access to stuff, and they sometimes send me things, which obviously probably helps sweeten the deal a little bit. Bloody love Ubisoft. Just like, if you take anything away from this whole podcast, it's that Geeky Pastimes loves Xbox and Ubisoft. And, like, I won't have a bad word said. Oh, no, probably bad words can be said against them. But I do like them a lot. Right, anyway, that's me done. I'm going to go and work out what's happening. Like, do we have Zelda yet? I don't know if it's coming to post or anything like that. And if we have, I'm going to go play Zelda. And that's all I'll be doing until Diablo comes out. But I will be back on Twitch later to play some Diablo. As soon as the beta goes live, I'll be about for that. And if Zelda hasn't come, then there's a chance I will hop on to play some DMZ right now on Twitch with Flynn. So I'll just wait a little bit to see what's going on, and then we'll do that. Thanks so much to everyone that's watched it. Don't forget to like the video. Apologies for this being a little bit of a kind of incoherent podcast today. I wasn't really planning on doing the podcast today. This was very much a last-minute kind of thing, but I thought I would hop on and give it a go. Oh god, I just looked at the concurrent viewers and it said free for a second, but luckily YouTube just hadn't updated. That was a scary one. Right, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all later for some Diablo, whatever happens. Goodbye. Oh, which class am I going to be? I need to answer that. It's important. I'm going to be the rogue, because that was the one I had the least fun with in the first betas, and everyone was like, no, it's the most fun class, so I'm going to give it a go this weekend. And then when the game actually comes out, I'm going to play druid. But for now, yeah, I'm going to give rogue a go, see what that's like. So, see you later for that. Goodbye.